to the Entertainah Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Before I get started on the video, just want to let everybody know I will be starting up the live stream with Bad Dog Talking Giants probably sometime this week. I'm guessing probably the day or two after training camp when we actually have something to talk about. Got to reach out to Bad Dog, but we're going to get that show up and running momentarily, and I'll have the daily Q&As with you guys as the season is fast approaching. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about that. A couple of you guys have also been asking about the video quality. My laptop is still in the shop. Should be good to go within the next couple of days. The keyboard's been having issues, so that'll be good to go. I want to make sure I have that ready to go before the season starts. But in this video, I wanted to talk about Saquon Barkley. I wanted to talk about some of the quotes that he had to say regarding his health yesterday and kind of give my full opinion on the matter and what it means for this New York Giants team and how it may hinder him to start the season. And I also want to dive into how I think it is imperative, and I hate to come out with the phrase that it's a must-win game to start the season over the first 2 or 3 games, but I really feel that way. This year, more so than any other, when you really dive into and look at the New York Giants schedule, I think the Giants have to get off to at least a 2-1 start over their first 3 games if we realistically intend to compete for the playoffs this year. Now, of course, anything can happen. You can get off to a 1-2 start, an 0-2 start. You could rebound. We all know that from the 2007 Super Bowl season when the Giants started 0-2. They finished the year 10-6. But this year, when I really dive into the schedule, look at the schedule, a young team, you really want to get off on the right foot. But we're going to dive further into that as the video goes along and just talk about some of the struggles that the New York Giants have had early on in the season. We know that that's kind of been a recurring theme. But let's jump into Saquon Barkley. And last year, of course, we were all super excited for Saquon Barkley. I thought he was going to have a monster year coming off a year where he was kind of limited due to injuries. With the high ankle sprain, he got hurt the second game of the season, didn't even make it to halftime. And then he suffered a torn ACL, a very serious injury, and we don't know what he's going to look like at the start of the season. Well, Barkley was asked about that yesterday. He came out with a number of quotes. First, I'm going to read the quotes, then I'm going to give my opinion on the way that Saquon Barkley's handling this. First thing Barkley had to say, I don't know, Barkley told reporters when asked about whether or not he's going to be ready to go by week 1 at his youth football camp at West Essex High School on Monday morning when asked if he'll play the season opener. I guess we'll see. I've kind of got to play it by ear when it comes to rehab. Rehab is never a straight line, so just listen to your body, listen to your knee, and whatever your body is telling you, go with that. Then he went on to say, I've been asked a lot, Barkley said. I guess that's the theme of this summer, when I'm going to be back, but no, I don't have an answer, to be honest. I'm not trying to lead up to it or build something up. I don't have an answer. It's a fun process. It's a tough process at the same time. So I have to continue to listen to my body, listen to my trainers and coaches, and just take it day by day. My expectations for myself this summer is come out, continue to be a leader, continue to be supportive, whatever I'm able to do, whatever I'm told to do, go at it 110% and eventually get back to playing the sport I love, he said. Like I've said before, I'm very blessed and fortunate to have a great team and great staff who's going to listen to me, and we're going to take it day by day. I'm just taking it day by day and listening to my body, and whenever I'm able to get out there, make sure I'm 110%, not just for the safety and health of myself, my well-being, but also so I could go out and compete at a high level and show the world who Saquon is. And, you know, I think obviously Joe Judge has maybe something to do with this, the way that Saquon's kind of handled the media. And we know Barkley in 2019 kind of rushed back when he had the high ankle sprain. Not that it was near as severe as this injury, but it was very apparent that Barkley wasn't near 100%, and he risked further damaging that injury, which could have, you know, been even worse for his potential career. This past year, he suffered a very serious injury, and I think it's nice to see, actually, that Barkley is taking a cautious approach, a more realistic approach, right? When he had the high ankle sprain, people were saying 6 to 10 weeks, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He was back 3 weeks later. And, well, it's great, and I think it shows a lot about him, about how much he cares about the team in terms of competing and winning and how he views himself as a leader. I think you want to make sure you're out there when you're 100% because you may hurt the football team. So I actually think it's good that Saquon Barkley is taking this approach. However, with Barkley out, we saw what the New York Giants offense looked like last year. Last year, Daniel Jones, without Saquon Barkley, looked completely lost. In the one game that he had Barkley for the full game, he threw 2 touchdowns, which was like 20% of the touchdowns he threw all year, and he had his highest passing yards total for the entire year. His stats with Barkley over his career and without are night and day. Now, the one thing I will say to that, at least the New York Giants last year demonstrated as the season wore along that they were improving in the run blocking department. They brought in a solid running back in Devontae Booker. However, what I think could make this offense at least dynamic enough before Barkley's 110% to win some of these football games early on is the fact that they had a Kenny Golladay, the fact that they had a Kadarius Toney, and that should only help guys like Evan Ingram, so on and so forth. The other thing that I think the New York Giants have going for them, at least early on in the schedule, the first two games specifically, they're not going up against, dynamic offenses. So I think they're kind of going to be grinded out games between the Denver Broncos and, of course, the Washington football team. And I think it's the types of games that the New York Giants defense could kind of carry them to if they're, conservative with the football and take their shots here and there when the opportunity presents itself. But without Barkley, obviously, this offense is not going to have the same type of explosiveness that it may have. Even if the guy isn't putting up stats, he's a threat in the backfield. He's somebody you have to game plan for, and it'll open up the passing game. And I think we've seen that throughout the entirety of Daniel Jones' career when Barkley's on the field and when he's off it. He looks like a very good quarterback when Barkley's in the lineup, and I think Barkley's presence alone has a lot to do with that. However, the added weapons should go a long way. And that's going to kind of bring me to the New York Giants schedule and why I think it is so important, even more so this year than, other years in recent history, for the Giants to get off to a 2-1 start. Now, if you look at the New York Giants record over their first three games, dating all the way back to 2013, so we're talking about 8 consecutive years, we're talking about 24 games, the Giants are 6-18. For a winning percentage of 25%. And yes, the Giants have been really bad over the last 8 years, but their winning percentage isn't nearly as bad as 25%. Some of that has to do with the scheduling, and some of that just has to do with the fact that the Giants have had a lot of turnover at the offensive line, at the head coach position, so on and so forth, and it's kind of taken them some time to get their bearings. This year, there's a lot more familiarity. Same coach, same scheme on both sides. For the most part, the majority of your core players are back outside of Dalvin Tomlinson, and you've made some key additions. So I think the Giants should be able to get off to a better start than they have in recent years. They've also only won one home opener since 2013. And I think even in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't win the home opener. I could be wrong on that. But since 2013, they've only won one home opener, and they've only had one 2-1 start. And both of those were in the 2016 season when the New York Giants made the playoffs. Now, by no means am I saying that if the Giants don't start 2-1, they can't make the playoffs. But let's put it this way. It would make their life a lot easier. But without Barkley, it's going to make it more challenging. And when you really dive into the New York Giants schedule, I think it's just a coincidence that their easiest part, at least in my opinion, of the schedule is early on in the season when they get two of arguably their most winnable games outside of the division. Home against Denver and home against Atlanta. When you look at the AFC West and the NFC South, the two divisions that they're playing this year, you can at least make an argument that Denver's the weakest team in the West and the Atlanta Falcons are the weakest team in the South. I think the Saints are obviously better. I think the Bucs are obviously better. And you could at least make an argument that the Carolina Panthers are better. In the West, I think it's obvious that the Chiefs are better. The Chargers are emerging with a young quarterback. And the Raiders are at least on par with the Denver Broncos, and they may even be better when you factor in that Drew Lock is the quarterback. By no means am I saying that Denver's going to be a pushover. They have a fantastic secondary. They have a good pass rush, but I think our defense could keep them in check, and it'll be a grinded-out game that the New York Giants will have to find a way to win. As far as Washington goes, we know that they have a very good defense. They have a new quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it'll be on short rest on the road on Thursday Night Football, which, historically speaking, the road team is at even more of a disadvantage than they typically would be on a Sunday or Monday night game, so that won't be easy. But I almost view a 2-1 start to be it needs to happen if we really do expect to make the playoffs this year. And when you look at the chart, over the course of history, and you guys probably can't read that well, but a team that starts 2-1, historically speaking, has a 53% chance to make the playoffs. A team that starts 1-2, however, has a 25% chance. A team that starts 0-1 has a 25% chance in comparison to a team that starts 1-0 that has a 54% chance. So we all know the way a team starts in the season has a lot to do, historically speaking, with their ability to make the playoffs. Of course, better teams typically win, but it's nice to get things going on the right foot. And this year specifically, when you factor in how soft our schedule is early on in comparison to the rest of our schedule, I think the New York Giants have to get off to a 2-1 start. And if Barkley is not 100%, sure, it's going to make it more challenging, but I think the Giants are better equipped this year to deal with Barkley either A, being limited or not playing the first couple of games when you factor in the teams that we're going up against, and the fact that Daniel Jones should be more accustomed to the scheme and has a lot more help at the wide receiver position. If Barkley is out, I would expect Devontae Booker to get a ton of carries. Corey Clement would probably make this team, and they would take a running back by committee approach, much like they did last year. Wayne Gallman, who up until last year was a mediocre running back at best throughout his career in the NFL, was able to have some very good games with the New York Giants last year. The offensive line, well, it's certainly a huge question mark in the pass blocking department. When it comes to run blocking, the offensive line last year over the last 8 games actually got the job done against some very good defenses. So I'll have to wait and see what they got coming out. I think the first couple of weeks, especially if Barkley's limited or out, when you factor in the teams we're going up against the first 2 weeks, I think the Giants will play a more conservative approach. When they go up against the Atlanta Falcons, who have a pretty potent offense but a horrible defense, I think they'll let Daniel Jones air out the football. 2-1 to me sounds very reasonable this year over the first 3 games, and if the Giants truly intend to be a playoff contender this year and a team that could do damage when they get there, they're going to need to get off to a 2-1 start for the first time since 2016 over a 3-game stretch where typically over the last 8 years they have a combined 6-18 record. I think the Giants this year will, I guess, go against history and actually get off to that 2-1 start. But we're going to have to wait and see, and it's imperative that they do so. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.